Welcome to another episode of the Let's Not Talk About Sex podcast. I'm your host, James King, and I want to talk about something today that I hear a lot of women really complain about a lot of the time, and that is men not making noise in the bedroom. Now, this is one of those topics that can go really deep when you dive into the different levels of dirty talk. And in the way that I teach it, there's about 7 levels of growth from doing nothing all the way up to role plays, fantasies, and all that. But for this episode, I want to talk more about just getting into being comfortable in making noise. And this is something that when I was younger myself, I really struggled with. I had this idea in my head that sex had to be this perfect performance. And I was so caught up in making this experience that I would just be so out of the moment and couldn't really enjoy it. And I was worried about how I would sound, how I would look, and all of that. And it really put me in my head. But on the flip side, I loved it when women were loud, and it would really turn me on and make me harder and get me more aroused and into the moment. And it's this weird paradigm that a lot of guys that I talk to, they love it when a woman is loud, but they won't do it themselves. And I think it does come down to the amount of pressure men put on themselves to make it a great experience. A lot of men feel emasculated or like they're not a man if they can't perform. And that leads to all these other issues such as performance anxiety and all that, which we'll go into on other episodes. But for the men listening on this episode, let me ask you, how hot is it when a woman is moaning, when she does get louder, when you can tell that she's really fully enjoying it, right? It makes you get more into the moment, just like I was talking about with myself, right? But if she was to not make any noise and didn't give you any indication that she was enjoying it, you may start to feel like you were shit at sex. And I know this from firsthand experience. The first girl that I ever slept with, she was very sexually confident. So whenever we had sex, she was very vocal about what she liked, what she enjoyed, and when I was doing a great job and when I wasn't, right? I could tell because of the way that she would moan, the way that she would use her breath and all of that. And through that, I actually got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm a pretty like competent lover. Like I know what I'm doing and I can give a good time. Now I had a few flings and girlfriends after that, but then I met this one girl and we started dating for a bit and she gave me absolutely nothing. She would barely move and there was no noise no matter what I did or tried. Later on, I found out that it was due to a lot of sexual trauma that she'd been through her life. But in my head, before I knew all of that, I started to really doubt myself. I started to think that I was actually a really terrible lover. Like all those previous experiences where I was told that I was good and all that went completely out the window. And yeah, I thought I was terrible. And here's the thing. A lot of women are starting to get in their head and start to wonder, like, does my partner even enjoy this? Am I doing things right? So that's what I want to talk about a little bit on this episode is opening yourself up, being more expressive. And sex is like a dance, right? There is always someone leading and someone following. And as the man, in most instances, it's up to us to take the lead. So if you want your woman to start being able to open up and fully express herself to turn you on more and get you more aroused and let you know that she's enjoying it, what that comes down to a lot of the time is you being vocal so that she can know that it is okay for her to be vocal. So a lot of the times, like I'll be with a woman and she might be a bit quiet because she's worried about how she looks. She's worried about how she sounds. So I'll usually start and I might be like, I'm not talking about like faking orgasm, like over the top kind of thing, but I'll just be a little more expressive and push out those moans and groans a little bit more just to help encourage her and show that it is okay for her to also start to open up. And 9 times out of 10, that's all she needed to start to open up, moan, groan, and really fully enjoy the experience as well. For her to really let go and stop worrying about like if she's being too loud or anything like that. Now, of course, quiet sex does have its place when, you're sharing a place with someone, all that kind of stuff. There's a time and a place for that. But most of the time, sex is going to be amazing when you can be fully expressive. And you can look at this in terms of oral sex specifically. Let's say, for instance, that your girlfriend doesn't give you a lot of blowjobs. From what a lot of women have told me, it's that they sometimes don't feel very confident about their skills when going down on a guy. And it doesn't help the fact that most guys just sort of sit back, lay there, and give her nothing. So she's just self-conscious the whole time and is just trying to like do it to get it over with or move on to the next thing. It's just enough of the foreplay and then we can move on. But if you change up one little thing, she actually starts to get excited for blowjobs. And that's giving her the affirmation and the praise and the moans and the groans and all of that. So when you start showing her like how much you appreciate what she's doing, that she's actually doing an amazing job and give her that praise, it's unbelievable how a woman can go from, just doing it for the sake of doing it to actually fully loving the experience where she actually wants to give you blowjobs more than you will actually want them, where she might even want to wake you up with them or give them to you spontaneously. Everyone wants to feel desired. Everyone wants to feel like they're wanted and they're good and they are a good lover. And if you don't show them and give them that affirmation, they're going to doubt themselves. And that's also going to shut them down sexually and shut down your sexual connection together because they're just going to think that you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. You're going to feel they're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And it's going to create this rift compared to the couples that are fully expressive. They talk about how they love it. They let out the moans and groans. And then we also move on to further down the line, which is full on dirty talk. And as you've heard from other episodes, women are very, very cerebral, so they can imagine things very easily. So when you start to introduce dirty talk into your foreplay and into your sex, you can literally talk a woman into an orgasm. You can do the exact same move and technique and just add in the dirty talk. And that can be the thing that pushes her over the edge because her mind is her most powerful sexual organ. But to be proficient and be good at dirty talk, it comes down to knowing your partner, understanding what are their turn-ons, what are their wants, needs, desires, and fantasies. What are their boundaries? What words are okay to say? What words are off limits? What scenarios are okay and what scenarios are off limits? A lot of the time, you'll find that we are a lot more open sexually in the things that we want to do and want to explore. It just comes down to having the conversation and having someone lead the interaction. Just like with the dancing, there's someone that leads and then there's someone that follows. When both people try to lead, it gets a bit clumsy. If both people are following, then nothing happens. So if you want to be more explorative in the bedroom, you need to come to your partner and actually start to create that space where there is no judgment, where they feel like they can completely open up and fully express themselves. And that might take you being vulnerable first and you going first and you telling them, hey, I saw this thing the other day and I think might be a bit fun to try. Or, hey, what are your thoughts on this kind of fantasy? Or, maybe you're watching a show or a movie and then a scene with that specific thing comes up. Like there are a lot of ways that you can subtly go at the conversation, but there's also a lot of ways where you can just go very direct and be like, hey, I saw this the other day and thought it was interesting. Would you be open to doing this in the bedroom? Would you be open to exploring this? And most of the time, if you've created a space where she feels comfortable with you, she trusts you, she's going to open up and be like, yes, I will give it a shot. Let's try it. Sometimes it might be an element of safety, just making sure that, like if something goes wrong, what can we do? So safe words and all of that. But we're going a bit deep now. But the main point is start getting vocal in the bedroom. And it's funny, the thing that really put this into perspective for me was I had this one girlfriend and she really loved the idea of exhibitionism. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it is a spectrum going from just doing it in a place where you might get caught to maybe a bit further up is being caught, and then all the way on the other end is completely being watched and you know that you're being watched. And for her spectrum wasn't all the way at the end where it's like she wanted to be watched in person, but the fantasy of being watched was one of the hottest things she could imagine. So we were in bed one night and, I just start whispering in her ear, like I just picked her up from her work Christmas party. So I start whispering in her ear how at the party I should have just taken her to the bathroom and started to strip her down slowly, telling her not to make a noise while all of her co-workers were out there not knowing what was going on. And then I would start to fuck her, and then I would have my hand over her mouth, and I would start to fuck her slowly at first, and then get rougher and rougher and rougher until she was moaning out louder and louder and louder. And I was telling her, like, you have to be quiet. They're going to hear. So I was fully putting her in the moment and painting the picture of what was happening outside. And she was just fully immersed in that. And I'm telling her, like, you've got to keep quiet. Like, they're going to hear you. And she kept getting louder and louder. And then I took it even further and told her, like, once she got too much, I'm like, that's it. Then I'm going to drag you out to the party. I bend you over the table in front of your boss and all your coworkers. And now they're going to know what a beep, beep, beep you are. And you wouldn't believe how intense the orgasm was after I went through all of that with her. It was nothing that we had experienced before. And that's because I tapped into her sexual blueprint and knew exactly the kind of fantasies and the type of experiences that would take her from a good experience or a great experience to that next level. And I could whisper that same story to another girl where that isn't her blueprint, and it would have either no effect or the complete opposite effect, and could completely ruin the mood. And this is why it's so important to understand your partner and what her actual sexual blueprint is, so that you can give these experiences where you don't actually have to be doing anything special in terms of your techniques or your thrusts, but you can just essentially take over her mind and give her those incredible experiences. And then on top of that, when you throw in that you're also moaning and getting louder with the verbals, that you're not restricting yourself as well, that is freeing not only for her, but freeing for you. When you're not so worried about what you say or what you do or how you do it, it unlocks a next level of confidence and a next level of intimacy between you and your partner, because you don't feel like, if you do something wrong, it's all over. So tonight, go out, give it a try. If you're in a relationship, start opening up, start moaning, groaning, letting her know that she's doing a great job, that you're enjoying what's happening. And if you're stuck on what to actually say, or you don't really know what she's into, start with just explaining what's happening in the moment, about how you're touching her, how she feels, what you're feeling in that moment, how hot she is when she does this or that, how amazing she feels, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of that first level I was talking about. In another episode, I'll go into all the different levels that I teach my clients. But yeah, just start off with level 1, moans, groans, and very basic words and affirmations. And if you like this episode, make sure that you rate it 5 stars on Spotify and wherever else it is. And make sure you also follow me on Instagram at I'm James King. And yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, send me a message and let me know that you want to hear more about dirty talk and becoming more uninhibited with your sexual expression. Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode.